Hello and welcome to Always Elite. Today we'll be reviewing the 2019 Fyterfest from AEW. Now there was 3 matches in the buy-in, and I believe there was 6 matches in the main card. We're going to start with the buy-in. The first match was Private Party versus SCU versus Best Friends. Winner moves on to All Out for a chance at a first round bye in the tag team tournament for the tag team titles. Now I'm just going to go over a few points on this match because there wasn't too much. I mean, it was pretty standard for the first 12 minutes of the match. You know, each team had their moments in and out and all that other stuff. Frankie Kazarian, though, gave a slingshot cutter to Cassidy, which was pretty interesting. And Scorpio Sky slingshot cutter to Chuck Taylor immediately after that. I thought that was a pretty cool spot. You know. Let's see. Best Friends do a strong zero, which is an Alabama slam position into a jumping pile driver with a stomp. Ouch. That looked like it hurt. And then the Best Friends win, and they move on to All Out for a chance at a first round bye. There was a backstage skit after that with the Young Bucks about things they were promised and never got, like a private jet, and they said that they got Coach or Iconoclast, and they got the middle seat, which is hilarious. I think that's pretty funny. Next, Leva Bates comes out, the librarian, so to speak, to shush the crowd. She gets shushed back, and out of the tent behind her comes Peter Avalon, the so-called other librarian. Now, as this turns out, that Peter's trying to help, Leva win her matches, help her try to get them to work together, because that's what he wants. He wants them to work together. I think it's going to lead to a match at All Out between the two, an intergender match, which I'd be very interested to see, because I think Leva could kick his butt. Now it was Allie versus Leva Bates. Allie, as you know, wrestled in TNA / whatever the hell they call it now, Impact, for a good long time. She's learned a lot in her time in wrestling. I remember her first match. She was very, very poor at her wrestling skills. She's very, very much improved since then. There wasn't much to this match. A pretty standard women's match. I don't know how long it lasted, 7-8 minutes, something like that. But Peter Avalon trips Allie to distract her, and Leva drop kicks Allie right out of the ring. Allie took a pretty nasty bump from that, going out of the ring. Now to end the match, well, no, there was more in there. Leva pedigree to Allie, shot at Triple H, maybe because Triple H passed her over in NXT. That's another shot at WWE. Allie super kick shortly thereafter, and Allie wins the match, which is kind of weird. Now there was another skit with Kenny Omega. He was told that all the music acts had left. This stuff is really funny, what they're trying to pull, trying to say that they went broke trying to put this together. I think it's hilarious. So this whole thing is going to lead I think it's going to lead all the way to All Out, saying that they're going broke and that they're losing money, and something's going to happen. I don't know what yet. I haven't found out. The third and final match on the buy-in was a hardcore match between Michael Nakazawa and Alex Jabali, who I found out afterwards was the CEO of CEO Gaming, who was hosting the Fyterfest, which is, a gaming convention, I guess. I don't know what it is. I never looked into it. Crowd was firmly behind Nakazawa at this point, from the start. Nakazawa always oils himself up to avoid getting caught. I think it's funny. Alex tries to drown Mike in the kiddie pool that was at the ringside. Being summer, so Fyterfest was during the summer, so they had a kiddie pool and toys and all kinds of weird stuff. Then Mike picks up a pool toy, I don't know what it was, and he proceeds to hit Jabali quite a few times. Mike Nakazawa spears Alex through a table on the outside, and then Nakazawa pins Jabali with a okay, let me try to explain this. Nakazawa had a thong underneath his trunks. He pulled that off after all that wrestling, put it on his hand, and stuck it down Jabali's throat for a pin. It was gross. And then he proceeds to throw it out of the ring. I think that's funny as hell. Now we're going on to the main card. The first match was Christopher Daniels and Sema. Sema is from a Chinese wrestling, actually the first Chinese wrestling organization over there. He actually runs it. Now, Daniels gives an Arabian moonsault into a crossface, which was pretty good spectacle to see. Daniels then does the Blue Thunder Bomb. Later in the match, Daniels does the Angel's Wings double underhook facebuster. It's kind of like, I guess it's kind of like the pedigree, but it's different. I don't know how to explain it. I guess it's like the Unprettier from Christian, except in the front, and he lifts him a lot higher. Sema gives Daniels a Falcon Arrow, and then Sema gives him a Meteor Aura, I guess. Sema pins Daniels. That was a shocker to me, only because I thought maybe Daniels would win the match, because, well, maybe it's retribution from a Double or Nothing. I don't know. Maybe they said they weren't going to do 50-50 booking, but, you know. Now I'm just reading from my notes. I'm not like other people who have, teams of people that do this kind of stuff for them. They have a teleprompter and all this other stuff. I'm reading from my notes that I wrote. So, just bear with me here with that. The next match was a three-way women's match. Riho versus Nyla Rose versus Yuka Sakazaki. Boy, that's a hard one to say. Early in the match, Nyla Rose splashes both of them, and then to a pin, and they both bridge out of the pin, which was pretty impressive. And then later in the match, Nyla gives them both a double chin lock, stacks them both up, and puts them both in a chin lock. I think that was pretty funny. Riho gives Nyla Rose a 619, and it looked terrible. Sorry, I had to stop the video. I had to make it brighter. Had some interference. I had to make the screen brighter. Now back to what I was just saying. Nyla Rose gives a side effect to Yuka, which was pretty interesting. I don't know if that was an ode or a shot, but either way, sorry, Nyla went for a senton and missed. Later, Nyla Death Valley Dryer to Riho. Riho counters her pin and pins Nyla Rose for the win. Now, we'll go over standings and stuff like that when we get to television, because by then it should be pretty well set, You know, there'll be at least, most of them will have 2 or 3 matches under their belt by then. Maybe the standings will be up. Maybe we'll go over that when we get there. Now the next match, the third match on the card, on the main card, was a 4-way match between MJF, Jungle Boy, Jimmy Havoc, and Hangman Page. This was a good one. I didn't know how well Jimmy Havoc would handle a regular match. Did alright, in my opinion. Fans were behind Jungle Boy from the start, which I don't understand. But that's the difference in the crowds. They root for the oddballs. That's funny. Jungle Boy flipped powerbomb to MJF, which I thought was pretty cool. A guy of his size, very, very small in stature, definitely taking down a bigger guy. Jungle Boy spiked Rana to Havoc, which looked nasty. I'm sure Havoc made it nasty, though. He made sure he landed on it directly on the top of his head. Page gives a pop-up power bomb to Jungle Boy. Then MJF decides to mock Bret Hart and attempts the sharpshooter and saying he's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Page reverses it and gives him a sharpshooter of his own. Page gives Deadeye to Havoc. Page pins Havoc, and he wins the match. Now this next match, which was CODY versus Darby Allin, is a very, very interesting match. Starts out, the crowd was split between the two. They wanted both of them to do well, because apparently they know Darby and CODY. I know nothing about Darby Allin, except from what the commentators said. They said he was a very dark and sadistic person, and he only cared about himself. Apparently, which is true. But you never know. Now the crowd was split between the two right away, but CODY gives a rack breaker to Allin, which looked pretty nasty. And there was lots of actual wrestling for the first, 15 minutes of this match. Actual wrestling, which is different for some people. Now Allin gives CODY a nasty wrist lock and bends his hand all the way back and his wrist all the way back when he does it. It was pretty nasty. Allin gives CODY the code red. Then while they were on the outside, Allin decides to do the coffin drop, which is kind of like the trust fall with his hands tucked in, looking like a coffin. He misses and lands on the apron, and it looked nasty. Allin gives CODY an over-the-top stunner. CODY gives him the crossroads, but runs out of time, and they go to a time limit draw. Now this is where it gets interesting. Shawn Spears comes down, as you may know, he's from WWE as Ty Dillinger. Comes down, hits CODY with a chair, and it was nasty. Hit him right in the back of the head. CODY went down in a heap, just like a sack of potatoes. Found out later in an interview with Tony Khan that wasn't supposed to happen. He was supposed to hit him square on the head, not wrap it around his neck. It was pretty nasty. CODY went to stand to get up after they woke him up, and he was blood pouring out, and he had a piece of flesh hanging off the back of his head. He might have a concussion. Well, most definitely have a concussion, and he might have brain contusions. He may not wrestle ever again, which would be very, very sad, because I like CODY. I always have. It was pretty bad. Yikes. Oof. I don't know how to explain it. You're just gonna have to see it to find out. It's pretty bad. Now, the next match on the card, sorry I had to readjust the camera, was a 6-man tag between the Lucha Brothers and the Laredo Kid. Now, Laredo Kid replaced Pac because of what Pac has been up to lately, so he's been pulled from recent events, probably all the way up to All Out. That's my guess. Now, it's those three versus the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Now there wasn't too much going on early, but there was Ray Phoenix and Pentagon. Yeah, it's Ray Phoenix and Pentagon, and a Laredo Kid versus the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, and Kenny Omega. And of course, in Young Bucks fashion, they come out as Ken and Ryu from Street Fighter, which I think is hilarious. They get the whole get-up on. I think it's funny. And then Kenny Omega comes out, and he's Akuma from I believe one of the later Street Fighters that I don't think I ever played. Of course, you know, it's Fyterfest, it's gaming convention, haha, very funny, guys. Although I did like it. Lucha Bros double super kick into a reverse Rana by Laredo Kid into Matt Jackson. It was pretty sick. Later in the match, there was a double Northern Lights suplex by Matt Jackson to the Lucha Bros. He did 2 to each of them. I think that was kind of cool. He did one, rolled over, did another. I thought it was great. Matt did a Canadian Destroyer. He's just calling it the Destroyer, into a spear to Pentagon Jr. Laredo Kid top rope Spanish fly to Kenny Omega, which looked like it hurt. And it looked like it hurt both of them too. Then Pentagon gives the Canadian Destroyer, or the Mexican Destroyer, to Matt Jackson. Then later, there was a super kick party and everybody was down. I think that's kind of funny. Let's see. Then there was a triple power bomb from the Elite to the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid. Thought that was kind of cool. Phoenix gives Omega a cutter, which looked pretty sick. And then Omega gives the one-winged angel, damn it, I can't even say it right, to the Laredo Kid, the Elite win. The next match is the main event, which was a lights out match / non-sanctioned match, which means technically the pay-per-view had ended, the lights had gone out, but they came back on for this match. It's non-sanctioned. Now it's Jon Moxley versus Joey Janela, which people have been anticipating for a while now. But there was quite a bit to this action, actually. The crowd was squarely behind Moxley. Moxley stomps a chair wrapped in barbed wire into Joey Janela's chest, and it looked kind of horrible. And then bows to the crowd, and they cheer. They tell him he's a sick F. I think that's pretty funny. Which he is at this point in his career. He's being allowed to do what he wants. I think it's funny. Janela Hurricanrana Moxley into the barbed wire chair. That was pretty cool. Then Janela leg sweeps Moxley on the apron. Then they go through a table, both of them. I think that's pretty cool. Then a little bit later, Moxley drives Janela through another table that was brought into the ring, set up in the corner. Then Janela Death Valley driver through a barbed wire board that Moxley brought into the ring. Kind of cool. Then Janela sets up a ladder in the ring, jumps to the outside of the ring onto Moxley, who's on a table a la Jeff Hardy. Ouch. Moxley Death Valley driver to Janela. Outside through a huge barbed wire board set up like a bridge in between the guardrail and the apron. Oof. Moxley takes Janela's boots off when they get back in the ring after he dumps a bunch of tacks on the ring up a lot, like 2 huge bags full. There must have been like 2,000 tacks. Thumbtacks. Takes Janela's boots off, picks him up, and just flings him forward into the thumbtacks. Then he picks him up right afterwards and slams his feet directly into the thumbtacks. You could see the thumbtacks in Janela's foot. Ugh, kind of ugly. Moxley gives Janela the Death Rider into the thumbtacks. Well, now he's calling, I guess it's not called a Death Rider anymore. I guess he's calling it the Paradigm Shift. Which is basically, it's the same thing, it's just a different name now. Moxley pins Janela and he wins. After the match, Kenny Omega runs down, gives Moxley a V-trigger, then a pile driver through a table. Puts a table on top of Moxley, dives off the ropes, and foot stomps Moxley with the table on top of him, sandwiched in between another table. Ow. He smacks Moxley with a guitar, beats him with drumsticks, does all kinds of weird stuff. I guess that's payback for Double or Nothing when he beat him up. I don't know. Then Kenny runs back out after Moxley tries to get up and beats him with a trash can. And then he gives Moxley his own move, the Paradigm Shift, onto the trash can. And before they go off the air, Moxley's getting up and he's smiling and laughing. It's pretty much what he wanted out of Kenny Omega for their match coming up. That's all the time I have for you today. I'll be back with you next week with Slammiversary predictions and the review of that. Until next time, always be elite.